This year would be different. There would be no waiting until the last minute. We were going to get what we needed immediately, first thing before they were sold out, because these especially are always hard to come by. But sure enough, we went to a stand to buy our Christmas tree and they were sold out. This is always my worst nightmare because, let me rewind for a second. If you don't know already, I love Christmas more than anyone. I love the holiday season and all the warmth and cheer it brings to people. Unfortunately, more often than not, most people find themselves becoming overwhelmed by everything life throws at them, and Christmas just gives people a reason to be happy. It's fun to get sucked up into the festivities representing the holidays, and putting up a Christmas tree is one of my favorite. Now, the majority of Christmas trees sold down here in Florida are Fraser firs. These have nice and sturdy branches that are easy to decorate, but they don't always look the fullest. For as long as I can remember, my family's always gotten a Douglas fir for Christmas. These are a lot harder to find, but they look and smell so much better than the Frasers. The Douglas firs are known for being nice and full, as well as having a very strong scent, and because of this, the few you may stumble across usually sell out pretty quickly. So, keeping this in mind, I planned on taking the family out as soon as Thanksgiving ended to embark on this quest to find the perfect tree. Now, Black Friday came and went, nothing special, but the day after, I couldn't have been more excited to get out there and find this tree. So we hop in the car and rush to the nearest Christmas tree stand we could find and start combing the aisles, and nothing. Not a Douglas fir in sight. Still filled with excitement, we pile back into the car and drive to the next one a ways down the road. Not too long after getting there, we were piling back in the car after another miss. Well, maybe some of the Christmas tree stands just haven't got any Douglas firs in yet, but I'm sure Home Depot is bound to have some. Let's go there. We rush to Home Depot with one of the biggest selections of them all and start running down the aisles in search of our tree. I turned a corner and read the first sign I saw, and the words Douglas firs were spelled out in plain sight right in front of me, and my excitement shot through the roof. I looked around trying to find out where they were being hidden, only to stop and realize the giant empty pen in front of me was where they once were. In the corner, there was a small little tree slumped up against the side of the pen as if it had just barely survived the abundance of perfectly cone-shaped Douglas firs that had filled the pen minutes before our arrival. Disheartened, I slumped my head and walked back to the cold car, waiting for me to return home without a tree strapped to the roof. For the next week, every chance we had, we made trips to different tree stands and called all the Home Depots in town in hopes of finding just one Douglas fir to claim as our own, and still no luck. And all the while, December days were passing by, and Christmas was getting closer and closer. Now, one morning last week, I woke up like any other day and was getting ready to set out in search of that TV I mentioned in my last video that I want to set up as part of my little brother's gaming station I'm building him for Christmas. And as I'm heading out the door, I pass my dad and say goodbye, but my eyes immediately catch this giant axe in his hand as he walks by. And closely behind were my two little brothers with axes of their own following him out the door. Now, taken back and completely confused, I stop and try to put together what was about to happen. What crazy neighbor had messed with us this time, and why my family just marched out the front door with axes. As my mind was racing to put together who was about to die and where my axe was, I hear my dad yell back to me, "We're going out to cut down a Christmas tree we found if you want to come along." My mind just completely stopped at this point. Partially relieved that we weren't going out to fend off some crazy neighbor again, and partially because he said that we're going out to cut down a Christmas tree in Florida? What was he thinking? Now, where we live, there's not too many forests around. It's pretty well civilized, and the few forests we have are completely comprised of palm fronds, which are ugly little bushes that look nothing like Christmas trees, and the only time you hear of people going out to cut down a Christmas tree is in movies and in the stories your grandparents tell you on Christmas. So going out to cut down our very own Christmas tree was the last thing on my mind, but my curiosity exploded, so I hopped in the car to join them on their quest. We drive for a few minutes and pull into this church's parking lot that, frankly, I've never realized was there before, just because it wasn't something that I had ever stopped to notice. But we pull around back and park, and not a second later, all the axe-wielding children hop out of the car. And before I could take into account where we were, the three heads disappeared into the tall grass surrounding this forest that seemed to appear out of nowhere. I cautiously start to make my way through this massive wall of grass and come out on the other side of this thick jungle of palm fronds and pine trees. Off in the distance, I can see two axes swinging over the bushes, as I'm sure my brothers were avidly taking advantage of this opportunity to wield these giant weapons and aimlessly whack away at all the surrounding bushes that even thought they stood a chance. After a minute of fighting my way through all the giant palm fronds in the way, I finally caught back up to my family and found them staring up in the air at this massive tree that stood a head above the rest. Now, I thought to myself, there is no way that that's the tree that's going in our living room. That's easily 40 feet tall and not even going to be close to fitting in our house. But before I finished my thought, I heard a whack and saw the top shake. Yup, this could very possibly end up being a Griswold Christmas.
Clark? Do you think there's enough room for the angel?
Oh, sure, honey.
I have a little more trimming to do, but that won't be a problem. Ready? I give you the Griswold family Christmas tree.
But hey, I'm not complaining. This is a tree, period. And one that we're getting to cut down our very selves. There's something special about that. Even if it wasn't a perfect cone-shaped tree and we were surrounded by a sea of pokey bushes in the 85-degree heat of Florida, there was still something special about every time you heard an axe make contact with the tree. A few swings later and you heard crack, 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 as the tree came down, crushing all the puny bushes in its path. And kid you not, the first thing my dad did once it came down was walk over with the axe on his shoulder and put his foot up on it as if he had just slayed the dragon of trees in the forest. And you could just see the pride he had in us, chopping down our very own tree, radiating off of him, almost as much as we were all sweating in this Florida heat. But none of that could discourage us, because we just chopped down our very own Christmas tree in a Florida forest. They got back to chopping away and cut the top off the tree so it had a chance of fitting in our living room, and even though it was still way too big to even fit through the front door, the giant smiles on our faces dragging the tree back to the car said otherwise. It was Christmas, the perfect time for miracles. So anything could happen. We threw it up into the tiny bed of the truck and proceeded to head home. Once we got there and realized how big it still was, we cut some more off the bottom, attached the tree stand, and somehow managed to get it through the front door. And we honestly have a pretty tall ceiling in the living room, but the tree was still bent up against the ceiling. And just to put it into perspective how massive it really is, I took a picture of it in our living room and drew it to scale here. This is actually how tall and wide the tree is as it sits in our living room right now. The thing is gigantic and looks even bigger inside the house. But because it was so freshly cut, it makes the entire living room and kitchen smell of pine. And it puts everyone walking by in the best mood. It's kind of too big for where we put it, and it has some branches that are kind of in the walkway that reach out and kind of give you a hug every time you walk by. I think it's kind of cool. It's immersive in a way. But the other night, we got to put some lights and ornaments on it and top it off with some tinsel, and it's straight up a masterpiece. It feels like you're walking into a winter wonderland when you come into our house, and I love it. But now that we've got our tree, we're all set for the holidays. Presents have started appearing under the tree these last few days, and I made a batch of Christmas cookies like I said I wanted to in the last video, and I didn't burn them. It's honestly probably because I had a friend over helping me make them, not gonna lie, but all the same, they turned out amazing, and I can't wait to make them like 200 more times before Christmas next week. I put some more lights on the house, and everything is just back to being perfect, and I couldn't be happier. And also, I just actually painted my brother's TV chrome today, as well as got that lava lamp that we talked about last video in the mail, and they look so good together. I cannot wait for the finished product to come together. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas and gets to give the most amazing gifts that bring the biggest smiles to people's faces. Don't forget to put the phone down and spend genuine time with your family this Christmas. I'm excited for 2018 coming up, so make the last little bit of 2017 count. But thanks for watching the video. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button to keep up with all my future videos, and drop a like if you enjoyed. Now, I'm going to go sip some hot chocolate and watch some Frosty the Snowman under the warm lights of the forest in my living room. Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Ready?